All right. Happy Thursday. How is everyone doing? Give everyone a chance to get their notifications. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and set the notifications to all. That really helps me a lot to support the work in the future as well, pun intended. So, as soon as channeling starts, nose running happens. Channels, you hear me, don't you? You understand? you get it. All right. All right. I thought about something because this question has been asked to me multiple times. So I thought I would make a video once and for all, kind of explaining how this comes about, how it works, how I got started with the Galactic Council, and how this switch from world predictions, um, very helpful channelings in that way, to actually circumventing time and going into the future. What is that full connection? A lot of people have questions. So it's a valid question about how actually working through timelines, understanding timeline shifts, and working through remote viewing and bilocation can actually help your now. Some people have said to me, it's a valid opinion as well, which the council would like to cover. But you have said things such as, well, if it's only a one set of many timelines, how is that actually relevant? How do I actually know which timeline I'm on? There have been a bunch of questions about time. Is this timeline that you've projected that you see when you go to the future? Is that my timeline? Or is it not? Right? There have been sort of this plethora of questions coming in that I really wanted to take some time to address. And then after I address all your questions and explain the process of the connections for the beautiful relevance that the council has with their work in Humans from the Future, and these remote viewings and channelings. Once we talk about that, I'm going to kind of just give the floor over to you, let you ask your questions to the council and to me, and just anything in relation to what's on your heart today. From that point, we can take some time and build a sacred field of energy together and connect to the council with your questions. All right. So I've been working with this, my favorite spirit team, the Galactic Council of Nine, since age 5. Many of you you saw me from Next Level Soul, or you saw me from Life After Life NDE, or some of the things I have coming up soon would be Wisdom from North, Love Covered Life, some beautiful things. Michael Sandler's Inspire Nations coming up, and Inspire Health. We're going to be doing some things with them as well. And I'm trying to reach as many people as I can with the unified messages from Humans from the Future and with the Council of Nine. Okay. And here's why. When I first started with this council, they wanted to help me understand dimensions, density, time, timeline shifts, how to really decipher and discern our own timeline, and then finally, how we can really look at our life from a relevant perspective in the past, present, and future, and then make changes in the now. So it isn't just about the future. That's not why the council was giving world predictions for a very long time. If you want to see those world predictions, I do them monthly, and I do one big one in January at the beginning of every year, like pretty much covering the year. And then we do updates every time something changes, if we can catch it. Sometimes we can't catch all the changes, but we do our best because, as many of you know, the future is not solidified. It is not set in stone. It is perpetually changing. So when the council began to give me a lot of these world predictions in relation to natural disasters, war, terrorist attacks, many of the things, it kind of freaked me out, because by the time I would get a prediction, it took me a long time to see this well in advance, many, many years of training. 22 years to be exact of deeper training, and even more than that because I'm 48 years old. So in the small levels of training just to get past fear, that's been since age 5. So we've been at this a while with them just training me and being fearless, them training me and really deciphering what I see and deciphering which particular projection of density and dimensional expression that timeline and prediction comes from. And then they trained me how to look at the entirety of the world and what is the most basic collective energy frequency, what is the most basic human collective vibration, and what does the majority, what timeline would the majority of people on Earth align to, right? Overall. So, what I do when I choose the humans from the future, for example, is we will go in and find the most relevant timeline, which is typically a 3D timeline or a 4D timeline, because that is the majority of Earth. Not many people are on a 5D timeline. Now, the paradox of that, this is why I'm rolling my eyes, is that the very small percentage of people that are in a 5D timeline happen to be the ones that are coming to my channel. And I love that. I love that. That's why I give 5D timelines, but I also give the majority of the world predictions and the humans from the future channelings and predictions from a 3D and 4D perspective. Why again? Ascension is a numbers game, and I need to reach the majority of people. So I have hopes that if you see that, because this is what the council taught me, if you see what timeline you're on, you don't like something about the majority of the predictions coming in for a 3D timeline, a very painful expression for the majority of the part. If you don't like what you see there, then you can do things individually to change your life, to change everything. You know, whether it be voting for a party that's going to hurt your country, whether it be something as simple as reaching out and starting a nonprofit organization for something that you really love, whether it be spending some time on personal integration, inner child healing, whether it be beginning service for a gift that you've had for a very long time, but you are afraid to be seen still, right? Whatever you can in terms of shifting your own personal timeline, that you look at the predictions that you're given, both from the world predictions and from the humans from the future, which are generally 3D and 4D timelines, as opposed to saying, well, that's not my timeline. You know, these are not 5D timelines. Look at it like, wow, but this is a majority of us, and we are a soul family. We are a collective family, regardless of our density and dimensional expression in time, which means that because of numbers, if a bunch of people are going to get hurt, we should care, right? If a bunch of people are going down a horrendous path, then we could do something individually and together to stop that horrendous path. Wouldn't you want to know? That's kind of one of the deeper expressions and interpretations of the why behind the humans for the future. I don't expect you to just be entertained. I mean, if you are, great. But what I expect you to feel from a humans from the future channeling is catalyzed, triggered, a little angry, a little frustrated. I want you to see where we need to, and this is the council's view, that we can see what we need to change, and we can begin to ask appropriate questions for how we can change that path individually and collectively, how we can work in our local and statewide provinces and communities, how we can work more individually as opposed to saying, well, there's nothing I can do because so many people would need to change, so many people would need to shift, right? What we could do instead is say, what could I individually do? What could I do under the roof of my own home and my family? What can I do in my personal, spiritual, financial, political, religious, familial experiencing? And what can I shift? What can I personally do to honor my part of service to this beautiful awakening, to this beautiful planet? You understand? This is why. This is why the council brings this to you. This is why it is relevant, because it makes people think. It makes you ask the right questions. And what we hope that you'll do, as opposed to saying, I don't like those predictions, that's not my timeline, what the council hopes for you to do is to be able to tap deeply into yourself and say, okay, I may be experiencing a 5D timeline, but I am here not just to honor my own purpose, but to be a part of a greater awakening collective and to do what I can individually, if not for myself, if everything's fine under my roof, in my body, in my temple of mind, body, soul, what can I do to serve those who are having a horrendous experience? What can I do individually? What can I do on a small scale or even a big scale when I'm ready? These are the reasons why we need you to see a lot of the 3D outcomes and potentials, because then you can look at it and say, okay, as opposed to saying, that's not me, that's my timeline. Instead, we can say, okay, it may not be my timeline, but how does my purpose fit in with the purpose of everyone in this huge soul family? All these beautiful beings. Love is inclusive. Love is not exclusive. So in that truth, universally, oneness is true. And those are all fractals of you, every single person. Even the worst. That's why you guys love the Hitler channeling so much. So many people are going back and looking at my Hitler channeling, and I'm like, that's not something I thought that you'd be looking at, but you love it for a reason. You were catalyzed for a reason because you recognize that he too deserves that love and compassion, that he too played a role for the grand collective. And look, now we understand a lot more about what's going on, particularly looking at that now and some of the predictions he made about Palestine and Israel. If that channeling had reached millions of people and people began to make a shift and to make a difference personally, could they have ended this war? Could they? Would it have progressed or would it have calmed down a little? These are all questions that the council wants you to know, that you are individually important, that you matter, that what you shift in your life, in your culture, in your belief systems, in your mind, body, soul, that affects everyone. Even if you are experiencing a mainly 5D timeline, do you want to sit back and not serve and to just say, oh, no, I wash my hands of all those people in pain. I wash my hands of the Mother Earth that's dying. I wash my hands of the earth being trashed up. I wash my hands of the species like bees and polar bears dying off. I wash my hands politics because there's so much evil. No. We'll need some of you to go into that darkness with a big shining flashlight and to shine love into political realms, into corporate lobbying, into horrendous places, right? And the council needs you strong for that. So this is why we share both the world predictions and how the world predictions and the energy from the council supports the humans from the future. You understand? Questions. Questions. I'm open for them. Let's see. Just gonna scroll back up. And insofar as humans from the future in general, we have a whole library of them here. Just go to my playlist called Humans from the Future. On my Patreon channel, we do 1 to 2 of them a month as well. So you'll get new ones from there that you will not see on YouTube. And then you get, one, I'd say every couple of months typically is what we're running on Humans from the Future here. And then sometimes we'll put little clips as well of the important things that had to be said. We did an incredible channeling of the financial advisor and cryptocurrency expert today over on my Patreon channel as well for all tiers. His name was Josh, and he was amazing. So I can't wait for you to see that. That channel is linked. Patreon channel for that is linked to the top of the chat. Okay. This is a really good question. It's time for your questions now. For those of you just coming in, your questions to the council, anything that's on your heart in relation to the topic or not. Try not to get too deeply into personal readings unless you feel that it's going to help anyone that's collectively listening at some point. This question said, I would love to hear about England and United Kingdom, how the war may affect us, not politically, info about devastation and how which war. Be more specific. the timelines are shifting like mad in terms of how wars could possibly affect England. Right now, things would end up being a little bit more of a civil unrest and some problems between England and Northern Ireland. That's like the time frame right now. The energy right now is leaning towards an unrest, a civil unrest problem coming up. So you're still affecting, there's still some civil unrest regarding your effects of Brexit. That's coming up according to the council in a different way this year, again by August. And then it's like you can't undo what has been done, you know? So in that way, those are more civil unrest problems that you're currently aligned to in the third density expression of those in England, right? Insofar as natural disasters for England, right now you're in the clear, but you do have some interesting, I'd say like I don't know what you call this. The council says it's like a wintry storm, very icy. A lot of power lines down, things like that came up in the visions when I looked at world predictions for England that are coming up. And I know you're thinking, oh, well, we're going to be warming up for spring. Well, hello, climate change. England's going to have a really bad freeze with some power lines down and affecting electricity grids throughout London specifically for a few days coming up very soon. So when I mean very soon, I was just given some numbers, and then because timelines change, I can feel the energy of it being soon. It could be 7 to 8 days from now. In worst case scenario, 7 weeks. So that's when I mean very soon. It's like one of those two potentials for what the council's looking at for England right now. So I'm more concerned about that than anything else involving war right now for England, according to what the council's been sharing. Yeah. Oh, this is a cool question. One of you says, can the family and people, can like the family and friends of the person from the future see and interact with you? How do you explain to them your presence in their timeline? I let the person that I'm talking to explain it, because typically speaking, I will meet someone and they won't be around their family. I'll try to like get them alone and get them used to interacting with me. I have to evidence it because most people don't believe in bilocation, no matter how far I go into the future, with the exception of, say, 2100 and 2300, who almost expected it. They believed it, but almost everyone else has kind of been still in an unawakened state of disbelief over it. And I've had to find um, a point of evidence when I meet a new human from the future. I will go and I will observe and seek someone out and sort of see what happens, see what I'm led to. You know, I've been curious. So the council will say, this time you're going to get a politician. And I'm very led by the council on how to find that being, where to find that being, how to get into certain political spheres, certain like little get-togethers and meetup groups. Once there was a friend of mine out in New York City, and I had to get in touch with somebody, so I kind of like used her, and I just said, "Hey, I'm going to meet someone that she knows. I'm going to go to some of the events that she would go to because she is deeply involved in the political realm." And I accidentally met a financial advisor. And I said, well, I didn't meet the politician that I was hoping to meet and gather his attention, but I met this expert from Wall Street, and he was super helpful today in sharing some of his views of our time right now and what we're going to be going through over the course of the next 4 years. So he gave some wonderful things. So, but to answer your question, I start out by meeting one person, evidencing that what I'm doing is real, evidencing because I look just like a real person until they touch me. And when they touch me, they can't feel anything there. We can't shake hands because I am in a bilocation experience, which is a projection of my physical form, but in a light body. Now, I can touch objects, but I can't be touched by any other living being because that alters time. So I'm not allowed to alter time, nor would anyone. No one has that power but source itself to alter time. So everything that I do has to be guided very specifically and distinctly and in a sacred way by the council so that I don't alter time. I'm only allowed to alter things that are going to help, and I can alter, say, the past because the past has already happened, which you would consider that to be now. Because if you think about it, we're projecting into the future, and the future is looking back, and that's the past to them. So by going back and talking to you, I'm allowed to alter the past, but I'm not allowed to alter the future at all. I'm not allowed to do that. Um, Also, once I evidence to them, like I said, we can't touch. So, in order to evidence that this is a real experience, I ask them to touch me and then they get to see what happens. And I'll tell you what, 95% of the time, the people that I meet from the future absolutely lose they freak out. They freak out, they get scared, they run away. And then I gotta kind of go, okay, do I try this again? Because maybe they thought it was just a dream, or maybe they thought they were going crazy. Some situations have happened like that, but generally speaking, when I meet someone from the future and I spend a lot of time evidencing it to them and getting to know them, eventually they will introduce me as a friend. And they will say, I met this person here at this event, and I'll introduce to some of the other people in their community. Those people, like I said, I look like just a regular human, unless you try to touch me. I've run into some interesting problems with people trying to shake my hand, like when it comes to family members. I've run into some interesting problems with dogs touching me, cats rubbing against my feet. I have some interesting stories about that because that just makes you zone back into your timeline, and then there's nothing there. There's nothing there for them to see. It appears to them from their perspective as if I've just disappeared into thin air. So some would call me a time traveler. Some would say it's a spiritual realm because I have unique gifts of channeling. But the only thing I'm doing with channeling is using my body as sort of like a transponder or a telephone, if you will. My body becomes like a telephone between the past and the future. It holds everything together so that when I'm talking to a human from the future, my body is well and safe. Um, and so that if I have, say, a facilitator, someone has to talk to the human from the future, right? And they can only hear that person through me. So my body becomes like a megaphone that transfers all the energy of their questions and the vibration of their words throughout time into the future. And they can understand it. They can understand it through me. In that way, I become that link between the past and the future by holding all of my energy in the present. That's how bilocation works. Um, So then we can ask questions. The facilitator can ask questions through me as like a telephonder, transmitter, transponder, a telephone, if you will, megaphone sometimes, but the lines go both ways in a telephone. I have to learn how to become a transmitter and a transponder in that way. And that's just what the council calls me. They don't call me a channel, they call me a transmitter and a transponder. Um, And then basically, if I can fully let that person come in through that, if they are awakened and they know how to channel, they can actually come through and talk through me if they're awakened and they're not afraid of that. But very few people have been able to do that. Mostly it's just me talking to them and trying to ask them a question, and then them giving the question back through this body that's in this timeline to all of you that are on the other side of the screen. Rather complicated process. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, their family can see me, and they can't touch me, but they can see me, and I look like a normal human to them. Although a little glowy. Some people call that like people make comments about this on YouTube as well. Sometimes when I'm channeling, they'll say, "You're glowing today. Everything's glowing." That's because I'm channeling, right? But the same, I look similar to that. Maybe even a little more glowing an energy field, not like with a big halo or anything, but just a general glow that looks a little different, right? All right. Will Czechoslovakia stay safe as it is in the future? Um, kind of going through the majority of the timelines for what the council has said about Czechoslovakia, and I'm listening to them right now. And right now, Czechoslovakia has an amazing timeline of safety and peace and unity. So right now, you're in a good place. We'll continue to look at that because this is something. And to answer this question, I do kind of really want to answer this because some people will say to me, well, if the future is changing all the time, why should we do challenge with humans from the future? There are a couple answers to that. For one, you're looking at all sorts of psychic predictions and you're interested in them, even though those timelines are changing as well. So what makes this channeling different would be what I would ask you. Because everyone's interested in predictions, and hopefully we all know that those timelines are changeable. But one good reason for the council to advise you to listen to humans from the future is because that gives you the most dominant collective alignment for the 3D and 4D potential for the world. It tells you where the world currently is. And in that way, it's just good to know. It's good to know because you can make changes personally and collectively. It's good to know because it is the majority of people's timelines in 3D and 4D, right? Because regardless of the fact that you could be in a 5D experience, you beautiful star seeds, you're still here to serve those who aren't, right? You're still here for that. So remember that. Remember that. We can't be selfish. Some people say to me things like, well, why are you channeling all the way into year 2100 and 2300? Like, I won't even be alive then. Yeah, but what about the rest of your soul family here on this planet who continue to incarnate and reincarnate here? What about your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren? What about, them? What about the people who still want to experience it? Or do we just not care because we'll be dead by then? Do you see how compassion rolls with that? It's important for us to look at all potentials, particularly the channeling from the future, because that can show us the most collective potential that's aligned for 3D and 4D. And when we really begin to ask ourselves questions, then we can do something about it. Hopefully, these channelings will provoke you to get triggered enough and catalyze enough to want to make changes, not just for yourself, right? But for everyone. That is the reason. Let's see. Going through your questions. This one says, sometimes I get worried for you, this unique gift you have. With this unique gift you have you ever been approached by government or clandestine organizations? I have accidentally tapped into conversations that I should not be privy to in governments. And the council just yanked me out because I'm not the only one who can remote view, right? I can bilocate, but when I'm remote viewing, they can't see me, but other remote viewers in clandestine governmental organizations can actually sense me. You can sense another remote viewer. And that made me unsafe. So I stopped doing that. I have no interest in that. And that's primarily why I bilocate as opposed to remote viewing, because I don't want to go into realms that I don't want to know what's going on in the underbelly of a very evil government. Evil does exist in the 3D reality. And while you need to know about it, you don't need to know things that you don't need to know, because what could you do? Not only would that make me unsafe, but what could you do about things that are happening in, say, less than 1% of an elite organization that's doing something evil? What could you do with that knowledge other than get yourself and me in trouble? So I don't do that. I don't look into places that are going to get me in trouble. And then the second thing I'd have to say about that is nobody cares. Like, the government doesn't really care. Like, this is still for the majority of the 3D population, channeling humans from the future is absolutely 100% unbelievable. And one day, when you have a zillion books of all the things that the humans from the future said, and you begin to see accuracy for yourself, one day when you've been in my shoes and you can see the accuracy, because I've been seeing the accuracy for 8 years now, one day when I'm gone from this world, you will see a long amount of time for accuracy. So this work is not to win you over. It's not to woo you. It's to to get you to change. And then one day when I'm gone, all of this will be left, and you will say, wow, I feel like I can do something. I feel like I'm ready to believe this and maybe make some changes on our planet. Right. So that's why. That's why I do it. It's not to evidence anything. I don't particularly care if people to believe me or not. I took 8 years before I brought this to you. I've been channeling since age 5 with the council and many other beings, but I didn't bring you humans from the future for 8 years. I took my time evidencing things to make sure it was legitimate and ethical before I brought it to you. So hopefully 8 years from now, you will also find it legitimate and ethical. That's the best thing that I can say about that. um, about the Gulf Stream, does that change? So cooler weather is the future in Denmark. Not right now. It's on a pretty nasty trajectory right now with that. Yeah. If Denmark is above water level still. Yeah. Yeah, it's on a pretty nasty trajectory. It is on at water level for say the next 10 years, but then after that there's going to be it will definitely be harder than that. The council says that there'll be some significant flooding. Let's see. Just checking on your questions. Give me a second. Okay, I've already answered that one. Okay, should we tell our adult children about changes coming? The council says as responsible parents, it might be good to tell them because you care, but also this is discernment. For those who have ears to listen is the answer. What if they don't want to hear you? You have to stop telling them and understand that children are a gift, but they are not yours. You are there to keep them safe until they are adults, at which point they choose their own karmic direction and their own natural consequences and implications, right? So how much can you do once a child is an adult, right? Tell them for sure once. And if they have questions, continue to tell them and explain, right? But many may not be open or ready. So you may have to hold that information for later and try again. Every scenario is going to be a little bit different with this answer that they're giving you about whether or not to tell your families. Yeah. Okay, so guys, I don't have a lot of political vocabulary. So Tracy, I need you to use different words because I'm not sure exactly what that means. I want you to reword that question. Oh, this is cool. Okay, what industries will most positively impact the world and the souls in it in the coming years that I might thrive in for a career change? Um, you know, I just had a channeling with a human from the future this morning on Patreon, and I'm going to tell you what he said because the council agreed very, very strongly. Engineers, particularly people who do that. There's so much new and beautiful types of programs and programming coming out, but it's not so much that it's a new industry, but that it's going to be thriving in a way that's going to make room for a lot of people. So engineering in relation to motorized parts of cars, engineering in relation to creating like software development for newer types of electronic cars. That's coming about because in the next 4 years, the being that I channeled today, and the council agreed, he said that it might be a good idea to consider that electric cars are on the rise, but it's not just going to be Tesla. There are going to be a lot of jobs opening up in relation to and offered by this new electronic car manufacturer that competes with Tesla. And they're good and they're more affordable. And Tesla tries very hard to put them out of business because it wants to own this industry. But there is an upcoming competitor in the next 4 years, and people are going to have more access in an affordable way to electronic cars. So the people who are programming those cars, who are creating and engineering those cars, this is a positive impact on the world right now, right? There are a lot of new positions opening up for nurses, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants in relation to a type of healthcare where you have to go into a person's home or you travel, and not just travel nurses. This is different than that. You are not just placed in a hospital or something. It's not that. You are sort of a hired by governments and hired by doctors to come into certain situations that aren't in a hospital, that you're doing a lot of that work in a person's home or in um, certain environments that aren't hospital related, more personally related. So that's going to be a wonderful thing as well. But there's so many, and depending upon what time frame you look at for um, potential new careers over the course of the next 4 years is what my human from the future looked at today when we channeled him through. But my gosh, robotics is going to be huge. You already know that because it already is. But a lot of people who are coming in, the kids coming in through the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs, the STEM programs through schools, are able to get degrees like they've already got, an associate's degree when they're coming out of high school. And then they don't have far to get into deeper education. And they're being sponsored as opposed to having to pay for their education. Some companies are sponsoring them because they can build robotics for certain like helicopters, planes, spacecraft like NASA is still going to be in existence for a while, and our economy will have the funds to bring that back up in a big way. Coming up, say 5 to 6 years from now, in the current projection, the council is saying, and some of the humans from the future channelings that I've been working with this week have said the same thing. So there's just a lot. There are a lot of new careers that you could shift into, and these are examples of some of the more flourishing ones coming up, say 4 to 10 years from now. Let's see, looking through questions. Yeah, so this one says, I'm curious to know if menopause is reversible, and if yes, what herbs and diet would be optimal to support this. The council says, and I have to give you the disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not licensed to treat, offer diagnoses or cures. Please ask your medical professional before taking my advice because this is for entertainment purposes only. Breathe. YouTube makes me say that. So from the intuitive perspective, the council says here that we don't need it to be reversible. What we need to do is find a way to honor that. So a lot of, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. A lot of the predictions that the council has given and are reminding us of again today has to do with combining certain types of herbs, particularly ashwagandha, shatavari, some of the more Indian medicines with chasteberry. Chasteberry is like the new gold mine for making menopause more manageable. We don't need to reverse menopause. We need to make it tolerable. And all this combination with cordyceps, lion's mane, those are all beautiful combinations. So that's coming up with people are starting to create hormonal balance herbs, and those things are going to be used 10 years from now in doctors' offices, as opposed to just saying, okay, you're in menopause, just deal with it. You're in menopause and okay, maybe you need a hysterectomy and now just take hormones to replace what's missing. That will no longer be a thing 10 years from now, according to the council and many of the humans from the future that come through me often. It just will no longer be a thing. Everyone will be using these combinations of ashwagandha, shatavari, chasteberry, cordyceps, lion's mane. Yeah, so many different things there. And doctors will be using that. Nurses will be using that. It'll be covered by your insurance. You won't believe me. I say that now because it feels unbelievable now, but when we were in the 80s, like, the internet felt unbelievable. So we just have to keep an open mind. Uh, let's see. Scrolling through your questions. Uh, I would like to know, how deep will California be underwater in 10 years? Yeah. Humans from the future have covered that and been incongruency with the council over the answer as being a loss of the California shoreline, beginning in the southern areas of California, all the way to the upper centralized areas of the shore. 2.5 feet of shoreline lost. So that's a problem. That's a problem. This is how the science behind climate change is being absolutely, utterly ignored, and people are looking at it like it's farcical tale. And it's not. It is science. We're not just predicting it. It is science. Sure, people have agendas, but there are agendas with that too when you try to put that in governments and politics. But the science behind climate change is real, and people continue to ignore it. Please don't ignore it. Yeah. Will Arizona be okay to live in 10 to 20 years? The council has given many specific um, informations about Arizona, and it's that it doesn't have enough water in that time frame. The access to water just begins to completely dry up, and they're still pulling from areas that also are drying up, like the Colorado River. So there will be situations in place in even less than 10 years where Arizona is only allowed to pull from the Colorado River during certain times of the year, and they will begin to have to create other water sources for themselves. So this is not looking great, Arizona. A lot of drought coming in your direction in that time frame, and hopefully we can all learn how to collect water, how to collect and hold water and store it properly and clean it and keep it safe to drink. There are a lot of things that Arizona will be doing over the next 10 to 20 years in that realm as well. So it's not like you won't have it. It's just that when you do experience rain, when you do experience these floods that you'll be experiencing in Arizona 11 years from now, according to the council, some major floods coming in about midway through the year between June and July. Um, when you experience that, your land will be so dry that when you get massive rains, it desecrates things, you know, particularly there in the valley around and outside of Sedona and Cottonwood and so many different areas. So I've been concerned about Arizona for a little while, but I know also that the appropriate light workers are placed in the surrounding area, particularly around Sedona, because you're there to create beautiful new technologies that help the people in those areas and to help them to recover and to help them build um, rainwater storage and cleaning and purification devices. And you will have that. So you will be okay. It's hard news coming, but you will be okay, Arizona. All right. Just scrolling through your questions. Give me a second. What is the talk about a 3-day blackout happening soon? The council says it's more of a metaphor in association with a hacking event with the internet. So the internet goes dark, not your electricity. Yeah. And it is a worldwide problem. And it's like certain areas of the world it's happening at the same time. So what we mean by worldwide problem, they say, is not that you all have a blackout on the internet for 3 days simultaneously. That would be a disaster. But certain areas or major cities are hit, like Hong Kong is hit, portions of LA, portions of New York. And it seems to be associated with central banking systems, like people trying to take down the states and provinces and areas of the world that house these major banking systems. So the internet has problems for a few days in that time in certain bigger cities all around the world. for 3 whole days. So that's what's coming, but it's not darkness insofar as a problem with from the sun or from some problem in space. It's not that, and it's not a solar flare. It's not that causes it. It is hackers, like extremely efficient hackers. And it won't affect your electricity. It isn't darkness literally, but it's the type of darkness the council says that causes you to say, you know what? I'll be fine. So what if we put down our phones, we don't go to work because most people work on computers these days. If we get just a break so that we can just listen to nature without the implications of 5G, listen to the sounds of the river flowing, the sounds of the rain, right? In that way, it's a dark out because it brings you into a void space without all the noise of the internet constantly there. Do you know what I mean? In a way, I think it'll be good. But what you don't need to worry about is losing money or having people hack banks in a way that causes loss of money. I asked that question in the council, and all the humans from the future did not see that. They just saw a problem with people creating this situation where you can't access. People will be afraid because you won't be able to access your bank accounts, you know. Even if you did have some satellite internet, it probably wouldn't work for very long because that's hacked into as well, like the Elon Musk internet, which is, by the way, not working very well anyway right now. In most areas of the world, it goes dark too. Like everything is just shut down for a certain amount of time for those 3 days with internet and internet access. Yeah, that's a good question. This question says, I was wondering if I didn't like my timeline in my future self, with my future self or with the future, how do I move to the one I want? Yep. Um, and yes, your future self could answer that one. And many people do ask those questions in my readings with their future self, because that is a service I offer. And they do that. You guys ask incredible questions. And that has been one of the more popular questions. The council says you need to look honestly and with authentic awareness about what you actually need to change. If you don't like your timeline, talk to your future self, about what it is that your current life is creating, and your current trajectory. What is the most positive and negative thing about your timeline? Because sometimes people want to change negative things, but it's going to lead to a positive outcome. And yes, your future self would know that, right? So if you think sometimes putting in the work leads to some beautiful dharma and a positive response, not just but for you, but for others as well, sometimes we go through things that we actually shouldn't change, right? So it's not really that simple as saying, I don't like this, so let me rip up a soul contract and change it. It's the honest, authentic assessment of where we are right here and now, and kind of looking at, okay, what could I learn from this? What could possibly happen in the future that's positive? What could possibly happen in the future that's negative? How is this timeline affecting not just me, but people around me? That I would be asking myself many questions versus saying, I just want to change the timeline, right? Because we can change certain things, but it's not just free will that is operable in universal law and cosmic law. What is also operable is divine will, your current dharmic path, what you chose in that way from the part of you that is conscious, the part of you that is consciousness, the part of you that you would say is a fractal of divinity, of cosmic source. That part of you, that God self that says, yeah, I want to experience this. And I may not know exactly why right now. And I will even try to get out of it, but there will be some good later. So it might be good to begin to ask yourself those questions, not just, I want to get out of this because this feels bad, but how could this affect the future positively as well? going through your questions. Will energy nuclear power be developed in Poland? Council says it is already developed and developing. Will it be safe? Yes, Poland's on a really good trajectory right now. It's safe at least for the next 12 years. And nuclear power isn't the problem when lack of safety comes, but civil unrest is the problem. How will crypto be this year? I just did a major channeling on that in Patreon this morning. If you want to check that out, it was good. With a human from year 2029. How will I know if I'm on a 5D timeline? Well, that is an important question. The council says that when you're on a 5D timeline, you don't have very many fears about your future. You don't worry as much. You aren't as catalyzed in a negative way about world events that would otherwise scare you. You aren't as catalyzed and triggered by other people around you. Your reaction, it's not that people around you are changing or that the world is changing. It's that your reaction is one of understanding, love, and compassion. Your reaction is one of inclusivity. That's how you know that you're on a 5D timeline. It's about you. Has anyone else been experiencing energy stories? Well, I have. I'm sure many people can attest to that here today. Yeah. Let's see. Got a few more minutes, so I'm just kind of scrolling through your questions for a bit. Let's see. Do you have any information regarding African Americans? Ooh. You don't want the council to ask that. So, all right. The past is the past, and it's not a 5D approach to think about reparations, because what you're really meaning to say is justice, and what you're also where that's going to lead to is vengeance, where that's going to lead to is disconnect. It's not reparations isn't a 5D word, really. That's like you're waiting on something to be returned to you when you are your own power. You are powerful enough to not require reparations, African Americans, right? You are powerful enough to understand that in the future, you will be treated with equanimity, respect, and you will. When I talk to the council and look at the majority of the Humans from the Future predictions regarding equality for African Americans, it looks amazing in all timelines, even 3D ones. So you are going to be given so much equanimity, so much respect, right? So much more equality in the workplace, right? So much more coming your direction in the future. And it's not even that distant. It's the most positive outcome on that is 8 years away only. So you have a lot of beautiful things coming to you. So don't worry about reparations. What we all need is to forgive the past, understand it, remember it. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean it wasn't terrible. It absolutely was. Right? But the word reparations holds you in 3D. That is the council's answer. Yeah. So Lisa, for Northern California, there is something still in a line for June the 16th through 17th when the ground begins to kind of quake and shake there with the earthquakes. Right now, that is actually aligned towards the San Diego area. Let's see. Okay. Just a few more minutes, so I'm going to take a few more questions. So Speak to me as if I don't understand words because I don't understand that word, acupressure, chikitsa. The word that you used after establishment, I don't understand. I want to talk to you guys about this because so many people are like, well, just ask the council. All channels have filters. Anyone who tells you that channels shouldn't or won't have filters do not understand the human condition, right? So if in my vocabulary I don't understand your words, it's hard for me to even ask the question because I don't even know what I'm asking. Do you see what I mean? My filters aren't in alignment with the answer. So, yeah. So you just asked it again, and I still don't understand it. I've seen this question a couple times. And I'm like, I don't understand it. Ask it in a different way. Yeah, because you got to keep in mind, I have no political background, zero, right? So I wouldn't know those words. What do you want to know? Someone said, would you please expand more on San Diego quakes in June? They are fairly significant. And they affect supply and chain. They affect a lot of things in the general city area of San Diego, for about a week. It's not a major disaster that kills hundreds of people or anything like that, but you will have some deaths, and you will have some major banks affected there too because the fault line is on one of them. So it's very interesting that a lot of the predictions coming up from the Council on Humans from the Future when it comes to natural disasters, a lot of these natural disasters are happening in cities where very corrupt organizations are operating. Yeah. And how interesting is that the fault line is directly under one of the most corrupt banking organizations in California and possibly in the whole United States, even save those in New York City, right? So let's see. You guys are so 50-50 right now with that. Some people say, should we not be panicked about another Trump presidency? Well, half of you are panicked about another Biden presidency. So it's important not to get too political regarding like which one of these beings is going to help you, because the council has often told me that neither of these beings are going to help you, and that it's a disaster either way, and that is set in place so that we stop a terribly evil system and that we stop taking part in it. Like, why are we still voting in people? Some people will say, well, I'm voting Trump because if I don't, that's a vote for Biden. I'm voting Biden because that's a vote for Trump. It isn't. Go independent. The two-party system will no longer be here 75 years from now. So do you want to change this for your children? If you do, the council suggests to stop voting for people that you really just know aren't going to be great. Neither one of them are incredible. And each of them in their own way are a full-on disaster for the United States. All right. Will electoral prices rise a lot in Scandinavia in the next 5 years? Define a lot. Because for some people who are just barely getting by in Scandinavia, like, yeah, it is a lot. Even a little bit is a lot. Define a lot. Is there going to be another lockdown this year? No, not this year. You have changed that alignment. This is why I do these channelings, because people can begin to get healthier and find other ways, keep themselves healthy, keep themselves well. You seem to have avoided that outcome and shifted it, because it used to be a pretty pertinent outcome in some of the predictions, but the council has said that you changed that. So congratulations. Yeah. All right. We've been at it about an hour. I need to go get some sleep. Don't forget to check out my channeling with Josh, the financial advisor and cryptocurrency expert. He's over on my Patreon channel. Get this while you can, because cryptocurrency predictions, like messing with people's money makes me really nervous. So I won't be doing those in the future anymore. Because when alignments change, you guys get really mad. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a cryptocurrency expert. And I don't like it when alignments change and then you're going to get scared, right? You shouldn't be playing with crypto if you're scared at all. Fear shouldn't be involved in that. So that is the last of my cryptocurrency channelings and predictions I will be doing. All right. So take advantage of that while you can and go see that. He was exceptional. He was absolutely exceptional. So I just have other work to do other than money work. I don't want people to know me as the crypto person. Like we have so many bigger fish to fry, people. You know what I mean? I love you all. Please do like and subscribe. I appreciate you being here on this channel tonight. And please like, subscribe, share, turn on your notifications. I will likely see you again on Sunday. Okay. Until then, I really hope you enjoyed this channeling and the one with Josh that I did on Patreon this morning. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.